Content warning, y'all. We have lots of fun making this podcast, but remember, we watch a lot of R-rated films, use language that reflects that, and joke about heavy topics to create levity around these themes. If that doesn't feel safe or could be triggering, please take care of yourself. We want you to have fun listening too. This also means we might not be suitable for children. Oh yeah, and we spoil the end of all the movies we pod about. Thanks for listening. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm good.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel super white colonial for this episode. It's okay. It's okay. I can sit in it.
Yes. Sit in your discomfort.
Yep. That's what this is about. For me as an ally. Ally.
I'm gonna say so. I've done some work to try to pronounce it. I don't know if I'm doing it exactly, but
Probably not.
From what I hear to how I'm saying, like this is how I am able to. I'm trying to like mimic how I'm hearing it, so I might I might be a little bit off, and if so, apologies. But it's Atanarjuat, which is the name of the titular character.
Yep.
The fast runner. I don't know if it means the fast runner, or
Right.
if that's just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And if you were here for the lobby, then you'll know. But if not, become a patron today, and you'll be able to get the lobby.
And you could hear me massacre the name outright.
I mean, we both do. I'm like, it's because I kept putting the N in the at the beginning, but it's Atanarjuat, Atanarjuat, and there's like it's like the R and the J are like
Yeah.
which I like the sound of. That's why I'm like, I'll say it. I think you could just say like, Atanarjuat. Like, I don't think you have to do that little, but I'm trying to say it the way that the actors and the filmmakers pronounced it, just so I can be as accurate as possible. Again, if I'm fucking it up, apologies. It's super interesting to read about this movie, though. Actually, I'd never heard of it before. And this film is one of the like, it's basically like one of the most like famous Canadian films ever. Like it's literally like won so many awards.
Yeah.
It beat out like it competed against an
it can, right?
No, yeah, but like at the box office it competed against an English speaking comedy movie and like beat it out. Ultimately,
monetarily,
yeah.
Well,
yeah, like as the most, like as watched, like I think it grossed worldwide. I mean, considering this is a movie that was, completely independently made, it grossed over 5 million worldwide.
Fucking A.
And
which its budget was like $2 million or something.
Oh yeah, like not quite, not even. So. The I can't remember it, but anyway, okay. When we were, as I was saying, if you were there for the lobby, you'll know that we discovered last night, right before we watched it, that the movie is 3 hours long, a little less than 3 hours long, and we were like, oh. And we watched the whole thing. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it through.
Yeah, same.
I was getting a little sleepy at the end, but not because of the movie, because I have trouble with subtitles.
Yeah, I
And
mean, also
and also
noteworthy that
um
you watched the 3-hour movies entirely subtitled
yeah, I know,
and didn't
yeah.
fall asleep.
I know. I'm so proud of myself. I honestly don't know when the last time that happened was. I mean, subtitled in general. Like, it's very difficult. It's weird though because I can watch
Thor 2.
Thor 2?
Thor.
Thor 2. Oh, haha.
Thor. Yesterday when I was at the grocery store and bought you some donuts,
Thank you.
and you just put them in one bag and they charge you for how many, and the cashier was like, "How many?" And I said 3, or I said I got 3 in there. They didn't hear me. And they said, "How many you got in here?" And I said 3, and I tried to hold up 3 fingers,
And you just
but my
flipped them
middle
off?
or like my ring finger got stuck. So I think it just looked like I went
Yeah.
when I said aloud 3. So
Tenty.
what?
There's a story that I was told when I used to work as a teller in a bank. Someone wrote a check for an amount that was like it was like either $10 or $20. They couldn't tell because there was a 2 and there was a 1. They couldn't tell which one was scratched out, and the amount said tenty. So they were like, I don't know. So they were like, I don't know how much it's supposed to be. I don't know if it's supposed to be 10 or 20 because it's not at all. Because
It's supposed to be tinty.
right.
It's
So I like
you did it. They did it correctly. They did it numerically and written out.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if everybody knows this, but it does not matter what the cash amount is written out. Well, no, it doesn't matter what the numerical amount is written out as. That is not paid attention to whatsoever. It is what it is written. So
it's
if
great
you,
we have both for as a
right. If you write $100 in the numerical section and then you put 100 cents, then that's it. Then it's 100 cents. Like, it does not matter. Like, it has to go by what is written out. So if you
checks
say,
are cool and you should still definitely use them.
So, but likewise, if you write out a check and you put the change amount in the check, but you don't write it, like if you do the numerical change, like if you do like $100.52 and you write that down, and then in the amount you write $100 and that's it. It's $100. That 52 cents doesn't exist. So stuff like that. So that's stuff that people can mess up on, and it's not like there's not always. I don't know if there's. I never went to public school, so
No, these rules are not explicit
correct.
anywhere.
Yeah, they're not always. And like sometimes there's like financial literacy classes that you can take, but I don't know where that's available and how like how many people have that option. Anyway. So
And I've also heard tell of underwater basket weaving classes. Never seen one offered.
right. So yeah, it was 3 hours long. It was the thing that's super interesting about this, and it's something that like in reading about the film and seeing like how well it did and how much it got praised, I was like, that makes so much sense because watching it, I was not bored.
No.
Yeah. I was not bored. I was not. Yeah, it was actually. Now, I will say this is literally a bare bones film. Like, it is bare fucking bones. Yep. It was really interesting because so basically they applied for like financial backing for the film for like the Canadian Film Institute. I don't know, something. I can't remember. And they got $100,000. And they were like, wow, we can't make the movie for $100,000. Right. Or like, we can't. So oh shit, is it, maybe it's the whatever, it's like co-made with the Canadian. Mm-hmm. I don't.
You mean what it says in the credits?
Yeah. Hang on, I'm gonna look it up.
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay. Okay. What? I don't know what I clicked. Oh, okay. Oops. National Film Board of Canada, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what well, let's see. Yeah.
Canada's top grossing release of 2002, outperforming the mainstream comedy Men with Brooms.
Yes, but that starred a little man called Leslie Nielsen.
R.I.P.
Yeah. And Paul Gross, who I had a huge fucking crush on
Oh,
at
it's
the
about the
time.
sport of curling.
Yeah. I had the biggest crush on Paul Gross. Still kind of do. I think the dude's really hot. He was from the show Due South. And
Canadian?
yes, he is. And I think
Despite being in between Mark Harmon and Matthew Perry?
Matthew Perry, absolutely not. But I can see the Mark Harmon. Yeah, no, I think Mark Harmon's hot. Sorry. Or was hot. I don't think he's just a white guy now. But anywho, I always thought Paul Gross was super hot. So anyway, uh, yeah. Um, so yeah, they basically pitched the movie. The National Film Board of Canada or whatever it is. I think it's that one. They don't do fiction. And so they were like, well, while this is sort of fiction, it's more documentary style because we're documenting basically a folk tale. And
Right.
they were super, super strict on they had extremely they weren't trying to be inaccurate in any capacity. So they had
Although the ending is different than how the
it
legend goes.
is. However, I will say this. I'll get to that. But they were really strict about the way that the Inuit lived. I don't know how to say it properly because it's that thing where you learn Inuit people and that's incorrect because Inuit is essentially
The Inuit word for people.
people. Yeah.
Which is true in most languages, by the way.
Correct. Right. So anyway,
Like the German word for people is German. German
yeah. So you would say
and women.
Inuk if you're describing a singular individual.
Oh, I didn't say the word.
Nope. You would say I can't remember how it's saying. It's like Inuk or something like
Yeah.
that, which is like two U's instead of one, because
Right.
Inuk is INUK and Inuk is like INUUK, and then Inuit is INIUT. No, INUIT,
Yeah.
and that is any three or more.
And the middle one you referenced, the two U's,
Is
two people.
two people, and period. It's not like 2 to 3 or it's like there's Inuk, and then Inuit. So that being said, yeah, they really wanted to show what life was like. And I mean, they went hard on this movie too. It's super impressive to read about. They filmed from because at the time of year it was the only time that they could film in winter conditions where it wasn't too cold for the camera equipment to malfunction. So they had a time frame that they were able to shoot. They shot from 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. because that's when light was available, and it was available for those 12 hours. So that was their filming, and they basically would show up on set. They would get camera ready and then they would wait around until they were able to shoot because sometimes weather was happening and they weren't able to. So yeah, it would but the Atanarjuat story is a folk tale about like roughly it's about a man, Atanarjuat, who like, you know, well, I guess I should say he and his brother are betrayed. The I read it on Wikipedia, so we all know Wikipedia is not reliable, not always reliable when it comes to non-white histories and things like that. So bear with me. These men, their wives betray them, and while they're sleeping, they like leave their husbands, vulnerable, and men come and attack them. One escapes, Atanarjuat, and the other one dies. His brother dies, and then Atanarjuat runs away. Gets away from them, heals, comes back, and then plots revenge and kills them. And that story, they basically went around to the elders to several elders, and they got multiple versions of it, and they blended all of those versions together to be the story that it is. So there's not one telling of the story. There's several versions of it. So they basically tried to do like a melting pot and make a main story blended together from everything that they were told.
Which is what the Grimm brothers did. I'm serious.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but they actually, they tried to be as specific with language, with how they had, basically, elders, on set that would, be, they wrote, the main writer of the movie, unfortunately, died of cancer, in 1988. So he was the one that, I think he was
98?
98. It says in the,
at the end credits.
At the credits, yeah, it said he died in 1988. But I believe he's the one that went around trying to get all of these stories, and he worked together. And then, once he died, they continued with it, which is always nice. When someone passes away, that it's not like, well, that's it.
Yeah.
They continued with this, production. So, it's just they had elders that were basically here's how you would talk to an in-law, here's what you would say, this wasn't allowed, this kind of stuff. And so they said that sometimes they basically wrote it, created it, and then they took it around to elders who were that's not how that's said, or so they tried to be really specific with language. They tried to be really specific in how the life that they led, they were really, really, really and so it's not, obviously it's not a documentary because it's telling a story that's hundreds and hundreds of years old, but it really is I will say there is animal mutilation in it, I guess. It's not the way
mutilation, I don't feel like.
Well, yeah, but it's they cut open, they rip apart birds and shit like that.
That are already dead.
Yes, that are already dead. However, it's a corpse, and they're
right.
I want to say this.
Okay.
They're not. It's not torture. It's not animal torture. They're literally ripping apart seals and birds and shit like that. But it's to eat, and they're literally eating it. It's not done.
There's lots of raw meat.
Yeah, there's lots of raw meat, but
there's lots of fresh animal corpses.
Yes, there is some kicking of dogs and shit like that, which is unfortunate. Yeah. But again, they're trying to make it super accurate. I'm not gonna say it's chill or whatever, but I'm also not gonna be well, this movie sucks because what the fuck ever.
Yeah, but I mean, that heads up if that's something.
Yeah, correct.
I mean, it was hard for me to watch. For me, the hardest part was seeing the dogs get kicked.
Yeah, I know,
multiple times, but it's not a huge part of the movie.
It's not. It happens like twice.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying it's chill or whatever, but I'm not going to say that this huge, important, very culturally significant film is trash because they kick a couple dogs. I know that sounds horrible, but like, But yeah, there's a lot of like, there's like tons of, where they're just like, they have like a dead seal and they're just like cutting it up and just like eating it right there. And that technically is like, I wouldn't know how to describe it other than mutilation because they're literally cutting it apart. But what I mean is it's not done to just for kicks. It's not done as it's just like it's literally being consumed,
Yeah.
and it's like not
See, I
ceremonial,
wouldn't call
but
it mutilation
I
because they're
know.
not alive.
Oh, well, I didn't know that that's what that was. I didn't know you had to be alive.
I don't know if that's the distinction, but for me, it
Oh,
is.
I'm gonna Google. I'm gonna
All right.
Google mutilation.
All right.
I'm finding
Inconclusive.
inconclusive. It's like just describing what can be considered mutilation, like removing a limb,
Yeah.
cutting a body, doing something that, but it's saying like it can be something that happens to something dead. But yeah, it
I guess it's
seems,
somewhat culturally subjective too,
yeah.
because if
And
you
again,
consider a dead body something that should remain intact,
correct. This is what
for
I'm saying. Like,
spiritual
I don't know
reasons,
really, like, cutting up dead seals. Like, I'm using that language because I feel like that's how, if someone's bothered by it, that's how they would feel about it, is
fair
more
enough.
what I mean. I'm not saying that's how I wasn't bothered by it because it's literally like food and clothing and like all this shit. And and I'm not saying like, who gives a fuck about animals? That's not really
But
what I mean.
you know,
What I'm saying is, if you're not indigenous, fuck off.
well, yeah, but also, content warning. If raw viscera,
Correct. If you don't want to watch someone cutting into meat or smashing meat with a hammer after it's been freshly removed from like a fucking seal or whatever, and hearing, then yeah, this will be hard for you. However, it's on YouTube.
okay,
I believe the whole movie's on YouTube.
Oh,
It's one
wow.
of those things where it's a 3-hour film, so it's going to be broken up into a lot of different videos, but it's lots of it is on YouTube. So even if you don't want to watch the whole thing, you can see some of it.
also
I
easy to find on DVD.
correct. Because this is a fucking major award winning.
International hit,
Yeah,
apparently.
it was the guy that played because I watched an interview with them. The guy that plays Atanarjuat, he said that like when they won at Cannes or whatever, and he said that, like the director like called him. It was like the two of them being interviewed, the director and and he was like, he called me and he was like, "We won," and I said, "What did we win?" And he was like, "I can," and he was like, "Oh, okay, I didn't
What
even
is
know."
that?
He was like, "I didn't even know we were trying to do that." So, also, interestingly enough, he was originally going to play the brother, but the guy that was cast as Atanarjuat did not show up to like the rehearsals. He just didn't show up. And the director, it's kind of cute. You should watch the interview because he's like, they're both like kind of talking about it, and the director's like, "Let me tell this." He's like, "No." He's like, "No, I want to tell this one."
Nice.
But he basically, and I think this is, he was like, there were a lot of kids there. He was like, and this is like a really important thing, and this is the main character of this really important story, and it needed someone who was a role model, and not showing up is like, is not good, in this case, and it makes you not basically, again, I could be, misinterpreting, but, you're supposed to be essentially playing like the role of someone really important and you're not acting like it. So he was like, yeah. And so, yeah, I can't remember. I don't know how to say anyone's name, and I don't remember what anyone's name is. IRL. And I worked so hard to say Atanarjuat that I'm like, I don't know anyone else's
Yeah,
name.
man.
And
The director is Zacharias Knuk.
yeah, probably.
Probably.
I'm saying I don't remember anyone's name. I think it was him.
I'm reading it. I mean, I don't understand what you
In
mean.
the
Probably.
interview, I'm saying I think it was the director is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I don't know what to tell you.
And Natar Ungalak plays our protagonist.
I know there's 2 A's in his name. That's the only thing I could.
3.
3.
Ugalak.
Girl.
Nailed it.
Girl. Yeah, there's a lot of. This is a movie that does a lot of show don't tell,
Yeah.
but because you don't speak the language, it's a little bit hard to understand. And it's like showing you like all these things. I mean, it's really honestly like watching it is like a privilege to be able to watch this movie because it is not my specific culture. I mean, yes, I'm indigenous, but I'm not Inuit or
Inuk.
Inuk, and it's showing you all of these things, this whole way of life that is so it's packs a lot into the movie.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, because so it has a scene. So basically, like, the synopsis I gave is like a very rough. That's pretty much how it goes. So, the premise is that like there is sort of this evil, which again, it's a little bit hard to follow because it's very subtle in how it does stuff, which I think is it makes you. I feel like it was really smartly done because the subtleties of the storytelling makes you like pay attention to every little thing because you're like, oh, I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to, and I kept trying to like piece everything together and figure everything out. We actually rewatched the beginning of the movie and I was like, oh shit, I missed, this whole significant thing. Anyway,
It took a really long time for me to understand who everyone was and their relations.
yeah.
mean, I'm a little embarrassed by that.
Well,
but
I mean,
the thing is, they don't spoon feed it to you.
Correct. So it makes you, which I think was really smart because they're not like the son of, they don't do the Bible like Shemhab was the son of Afab and Amab and
Flabhag.
and they don't just like Afab.
Shimab was the father of Afab.
Well, yeah, an Amab. Afab and Amab.
Fuck. And they begat indeed.
Exactly. They begat Agad and anyway. Where it like breaks it down and you're just so fucking bored. You're like, oh my God, I don't care.
Correct.
I don't care. So they don't do any of that. So you are like, oh shit, am I getting this right? Am I reading this correctly? Like, and you're really paying attention, which I think works really well for not knowing the language, not knowing the story, and being like, okay, I have to pay attention. I have to make sure that I'm, and it made it not easier to follow, but it made it a lot
engaging.
I was going to say engrossing, but engaging. It made it more engaging. It made you really like hold on to every
I kept
word.
thinking of the term immersive for this movie.
Yeah, it kind of does feel immersive.
It feels, I don't know,
loaded,
but
that like, it's not inaccurate. Like that was a thing where I was like watching it and I was like, man, like because when we first
it doesn't do like for for a white audience, for
Yeah.
a North American white audience, I don't think it does anything to like comfort you
Correct.
or make you feel like you're watching a
Correct.
regular
Yes.
film.
A regular film.
You know what I mean? Like what
Yeah.
you're used to going to the movies for. No, it's a 3-hour epic
Correct.
myth.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and it's shot on location.
Yeah. Right. It's shot on location
in Igloolik,
yeah.
Nunavut, Canada. Somehow it's Canada. I looked it up on the
I know.
map.
Yeah.
It's basically Santa's village. That's how
Yeah.
far north it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the shot. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
All the
it's
shots.
wild.
All you see is snow forever.
Yeah. Seriously.
I mean,
So
except for when there's not snow. But.
yeah. So it's essentially like kind of a telling of like evil, sort of. It's interesting. So like, I'm not gonna.
It's those meddling outsiders that come in and cause trouble.
Yeah, right. I'm not gonna break.
It's
I'm not gonna
xenophobic.
break it down too much because I don't want to misinterpret things and I don't want to but basically the leader or the most respected, I don't know, the person that has the tooth necklace. Someone comes and battles him and he dies, or they do something and he dies. And then his son is given that necklace, and it's implied or said that he essentially collaborated to kill his father. And so then
so that he could
so that he could be
camp leader.
Yeah.
Camp leader is how
Oh.
the Wikipedia
Okay.
synopsis
Okay.
calls it.
So and basically, that's essentially how it is. It's really interesting because they all break off into different subgroups sort of as time goes on.
Right.
But the person who sort of calls it out is Tulamek. He's sort of
Calls it out when it happens.
Yes, correct. He sort of made an outcast. He's the weakest hunter.
Right.
He's all this stuff. He's mocked. He's made fun of. And then his children grow up, and his kids are Atanarjuat and
his brother.
Yeah, I cannot. It's it's like Emma something. I can't remember. It is.
Oops.
Yeah, maybe. Is it
Amakshwak.
Yeah, Amakshwak. And they're I feel I mean, this is how I'm interpreting it. They're the cool guys. Everybody's they're cool. They're really good hunters, and they're fast, and they're the girls like them, and
That's true. The ladies are all about them.
The ladies do love Antonov.
But then Oki's
what
band is.
Yeah, they're the bad boys. They're the bad boys.
Well, they're just assholes.
Yeah, but
And they're oh, we're taking your sled now.
Yeah, they're just really rude and shit. But Okay's sister, shit, I don't remember what her name is. Sletterson. Puya, yeah. She likes Atanarjuat and Atwat, Atwat and Okay are, they say it okay or okay,
yeah.
Okay are promised to one another. So
oh yeah, right.
Atanarjuat and Okay battle, and Atanarjuat wins, and so he marries Atwat.
And her parents are.
I don't remember who her parents are.
Maybe we don't know, huh?
Yeah, I don't remember. But what is it? Puya. Is Okay's sister, and she has eyes for Atanarjuat. eventually she becomes his second wife, which I enjoy because that's not really judged by anyone. It's like, of course you would have a second wife, sort of thing.
Well, the way it's presented is, I forget who it is, but it was like, in my day,
Yeah.
men had to have
two wives.
multiple wives.
But yeah, I mean, it's not broken down much, and I didn't need it to be. But she starts fucking. So Atanarjuat and Atwat have a baby together, and they live with his brother. What is it? Amakshwat, and his wife, who I don't remember her name at all.
Yeah.
And Puya, they all sleep in a tent together, and shockingly, Puya and Amakshwat start fucking in front of everyone. It's so amazing. I love that scene so much. And like, Amakshwat's wife wakes up and she's like, and then everybody gets really mad and
they kick Puya out.
Yeah, they kick Puya out. Amakshwat gets yelled at. Whatever. Anyway, everybody's in trouble. Puya goes back to her family and is like, "Oh my god, y'all! I didn't even do nothing, and they're like so horrible to me." So okay, like basically conspires to kill them.
The two brothers.
Yeah. And so Puya goes back, asks for forgiveness, gets it because they're fine.
Dumbasses,
I don't know. Whatever. But I mean, she's like, I'll help with stuff because they don't really like her because she doesn't help out, which I think is interesting. They don't dislike her because she's the second wife. They dislike her because she makes more work for them, which I'm like, I like that they're not jealous, that they're not like, they're like, you make our life harder and that's why we don't like you. Or like you make things more difficult and that's why we're not super fond of you. So she comes back and she's like, I'll do everything, so that life's easier for you guys. So she basically...
Uluriak is Amajuak's wife. Played by Neve Ernguat. I liked her. She looked real scrappy.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
I mean, that's not really the character at all, but...
I know, yeah.
I don't want to fight her.
No, yeah. So...
Shout out to Neve.
Puya... Puya, basically, I think, like, because they come, what is it? Amakshwat and Atanarjuat. Oh my god, I can't do this. Atanarjuat, they come back, and they're tired from hunting.
Funny, it sounds like you're saying something in reverse.
Really?
To my mind.
Atanarjuat.
Atanarjuat.
So... they come back. They're tired.
They've been out hunting.
Yeah. She's like, go pick eggs. Go egg picking to the two wives.
Go pick some eggs.
Yeah. And so they go picking eggs and she takes care of the husbands. Not like that, y'all. Stop. And I'm assuming
they're like, we're going to take a nap.
Yeah. They're like, we're going to take...
I'll take
she's
care
like,
of their furs.
She's like, I got this.
Up or whatever.
So she sets one of their boots next to a spot, and I think it's...
Oh, that's the signal?
I think that's... Okay. Well, I don't know if that's the signal. I think she's telling them, like, where they're positioned in the tent.
Oh.
I think that's what it was. Because they come and they stab, but we see Atanarjuat roll over. Like, and so I think that's what it is. So she's telling them where... Yeah, I think that's what it was. So anyway, they come back and, so they, and his two boys attack.
I just assumed they were all brothers, but
yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. So they all attack. They kill Amakshwat and think they've killed Atanarjuat, and they're like, okay, cool. But then Atanarjuat, who's completely naked because he went in for a nap, just jumps out of the tent and starts running over the ice. and he is just booking it. And so they're chasing after him, but he runs.
And full nudity. We see the nudity.
But yeah, absolutely, completely butt naked. Just
also
dicks out. And he was like, you know, because they asked him, they were like, how was filming that? He said, this was nice to know, because in the film itself, his feet are just like shredded at the end. And he was like, he's like, I scraped my knee because I had to fall a bunch. He was like, but that was really all that happened. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Because it's very unclear.
It was convincing enough, you know? Like,
yeah. I mean, because he just looked so fucking tired and completely wrecked.
I just mean even the close-up, like when...
Yeah. Oh my God, that's what I was going to say. When she's
wounds.
tending to his feet, it literally looks like the skin, like a chunk of skin on his foot got completely yanked off. Yeah. I was like, oh my God. So it was nice to know that he was actually fine. And that was, because I was like, oh God, what if that was real?
Right.
What if they, so he was fine. But I really do think that was actually impressive to me, because like, I'm not fooled by shit in movies. And that I was like, oh my God, that looks like straight up.
Whatever they did, very convincing.
Yeah. Very convincing.
I mean,
Bravo.
I wouldn't be surprised if they just, you know, put animal blood on his foot.
Yeah.
But the fact that it looks like he's flayed to fuck.
Exactly.
And that, what's her name that's tending to him is like, it looks like she's peeling.
Yeah, it's so, anyway, bravo. So, he runs eventually, and he stumbles upon a family who, in the beginning of the film, they're actually connected to his original camp.
Right.
And it's the brother of OK's
grandmom.
Yes, grandma.
She's Sowy's mom.
Yeah.
She's the wife of the guy who dies, the camp leader.
Yeah, but she's not. She's the mother. She's not the. Yeah, whatever. Anyway.
No, she's Sowy's mom.
You're right. You're right. I'm just confused.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying.
Okay, we're gonna take a break real quick. Be right back.
So, it's her brother. So, he like hides Atanarjuat, and then when OK comes and searches for them, they don't find them.
A lot of plot involves piss.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. He pisses right on the hiding spot for Atanarjuat, and I love that they...
Now, given the context that you gave of the person doing that, going around and getting the versions...
Yeah, I know.
I like to think that everyone's like, you got to include this part.
You got to have the piss, man. You got to have piss in there somewhere.
He hid under some seaweed and then got pissed upon.
So basically it ends with, you know, his wife, you know... Oh, there is some sexual assault too. His wife gets sexual, like rapes basically Atanarjuat. And I will say this, there's a sex scene, like a consensual sex scene that happens in the movie, and they do a lot to make that shit look real. I was like
for real,
semi-convinced that they were actually fucking.
It's impressive.
And
I thought it was pretty hot.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's what I'm saying. When I say it looked real, that's what I mean. I was like, damn. Yeah, I was just like, holy shit, it honestly looks like they're trying not to show them fucking. Like, I think that's what made it look like they're like, oh shit, we can't show that, you know? So I was like, oh shit. And the scene with rape is almost comically poorly done.
Right.
And I was like, ooh, I appreciate that, because they're not going for realism here.
Right.
They're just showing and it's a story, it's all this stuff. And I think what they're trying to show is the corruption of OK and how he cannot envision like something not being hit. Like, he has to take everything. And Atanarjuat does not want him. She's never wanted him. And so he assaults her. And she is like you know, and I think it's like a beautiful scene where like because they call like it's like very interesting and strange, but there's like an older lady. I think his grandma calls her little mother, calls Aswat little mother, and Aswat calls her, I think, little daughter or something like that. Or she calls her like little, I don't know. She says something to her. It's really sweet because she's like, when you were born, I knew you were my mother, you know, and it was very sweet. Anyway, she comes to her and she was like, you know, Aswat is just kind of just
Did
sitting.
you love me very much?
But Aswat, she comes to her and Aswat is kind of just sitting there, like not reacting. And she says, she was like, let the tears come. She was like, you know, basically like, it won't always be this way. You know, you will move past this and you will learn to love yourself again. And I was like, oh, yeah, because when it happens, you hate yourself. Like you absolutely hate yourself and you're so like every part of your body. And she's like, you'll love yourself again. And then Aswat like starts, you know, mourning essentially. And I was like, this is actually such an important, impactful scene between like showing generational trauma and showing,
Yeah.
'cause she was like, terrible things happen to me too. And you'll learn to love yourself again, or you'll get to a point where you love yourself again.
The language of it is a little
I get
rough
it, but
because
I'm like,
it feels simplistic. I am sure it's lost in
right.
translation.
Correct. But I don't know. It was like a very simplistic scene. It wasn't dwelled on.
Right.
It wasn't like, but it's showing like the corruption of okay. Or okay. I don't know if I'm saying it right. It really sounds like they call him okay. So I'm assuming. Anyway.
It's transliterated as OKI.
Yeah. Okay. So
That's how it's spelled. I mean,
once Atanarjuat heals up, he comes back and he finds Atwat and he like basically like, you know, it's so sweet. He tears her clothes off and he's like, you look cold, and he tears her clothes off. It's like snowing and he tears her clothes off and then he puts like these like nice beautiful clothes on her. And he's like, there you go. Now you'll be warm. And it's so sweet. Like, I'm like, I love that he's just like, absolutely not. You are dressed so bad, girl. Let me put this on. It's so sweet. I love it. And then Puya's like, oh, girl. She's like, hey, did you miss me?
yeah, I love how they do it.
And he's like, oh, look how warm you are. And then he just cuts her clothes off. And then he's like,
there you
okay. Go. So, yeah, there's like a lot of stuff.
She goes back to her brothers again. And
okay, he's like, you look stupid. He's like, your tits are flopping around. She's like, did you see that? He's like, I saw you looking dumb. And that was funny. Yeah, okay eats like a rabbit and the evil leaves him, which was kind of confusing. But I was like, you know what? We're going with it. And then Atanarjuat basically tricks them and beats the three guys up. And in the original story, he kills them. And they decided to go. They said like they felt like the original the writer of the movie said he felt like he wanted to lead with hope, with more hope. He felt like that was what was needed in the time now. So he had them not do that. But he also said it was probably the influence of like Christianity in that like in Inuit culture that caused him to want to change that. Like,
oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it ends with like, you know, all's forgiven, everyone's forgiven, and then I think it's I can't remember who specifically it is. She's like, I have to say something. She was like, okay, and Puya.
Yeah.
She's
Get
like,
the fuck out.
No, this is what I love about it. She's like, it's time for forgiveness. And this was like it felt like such a sick fucking burn. I loved it so much. She's like, okay, and Puya,
And the two other guys, right?
Yeah, she's like, yeah, there was like others. I don't know specifically who they were in relation. She's like, you have brought so much like horrible shit to us, and you just were like, absolutely, you have made everyone's life more miserable with your behavior. So I want to offer you forgiveness.
But also you can't stay.
And no, she's like, so you have to leave.
Mm.
And she says something like, I hope you're shown forgiveness the same way we've shown you or like the same way. Like, I hope you show each other forgiveness the same way we've shown you forgiveness. And I'm like, oh my God, are you saying like you hope they all like stop talking to each other?
Oh,
like,
I see.
Yeah, I was like, damn. Okay. Crazy. I forgot they battle the evil too at the end and win against it this time and banish it, basically. And then Atanarjuat becomes the camp leader.
Oh,
and
that's
then
right.
the movie ends. Yeah, and then the credits go so fast. Those credits just speed.
It's true.
They do show some behind the
I'm like,
scenes.
am I watching this on TV?
I know, it's so
Next
fast.
to a preview of what's coming up next? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? I realized, I said this to you off mic already, but like I realized that I might still do it, but there won't be much point to putting audio clips from the movie.
I think there's some songs.
Duin lungun ayun lapa paluya natij kisim mamangit kisim kaluya kihal iqiyana lapang tiriya kuluglit kanuile lugulit pilau melagulit hangi lagami pisut lagami damam kalunil katipit yalunil katipit nek kek lagami pisut lagami damam kalunil
Or just like they do some throat singing at some point. And I think that's something that shouldn't be in there. And actually a clip of them saying Atanarjuat's name, so you know.
So you know how good you've done?
Well, no. So that you can see why I had to look it up after the fucking movie and try to figure out how to say it, because it's very difficult. Yeah, it's super interesting. Like I know that I've like basically said the whole movie right now, but I don't like I've told you the entire plot of the entire movie. But yeah, it was just like really yeah, it was really interesting, and watching them I was really honestly like, cuz like the director did not like, he basically like got a camera. He didn't touch any of the settings, and he used like natural light only. And I think the way that it's shot, I think one of the reasons why it feels so like you said, it feels immersive. I think one of the ways is because it's shot digitally. But it's very much like what we said again in the lobby. It's very much like old digital. Like it's not super crisp. I mean, it is crisp. It's crisper than, film likely would be. But it still looks a little,
It's something that feels raw about it.
Yeah, it looks like a documentary. It looks like a documentary. And it's not like the lighting isn't adjusted. Nothing's adjusted. So it just looks like straight, just like life that you're watching, because you are. And so that was really, really interesting. And I think that made it feel more immersive, because you did feel like you're literally just watching them do this. You don't feel like, and man, when I tell you fucking, that's what, like, that bitch can cry. She was like bawling through half the fucking movie, and it was just like she had like it wasn't even like it was just like a scene where she was supposed to cry, and she like there like immediately just 100 tears just flowing out of her. I'm like, damn girl, what the fuck? Like she's really good at, and I like it was really interesting. There's a couple, a couple times of people eating shit. That was really funny.
Yep.
There was that one scene where that girl kept laughing at everything, which I thought was amazing. That was probably my favorite part. She literally had her hand over her mouth, like
immediately when the camera was on her.
As soon as they were like, "This is my wife," and she's just like, like.
She was singing about Borat.
Yeah. I think like if you can handle watching, sort of Inuit practices over, eating, basically raw meat, and watching a bird get just ripped in half. It's skinned already, so it's not like, I was a little worried. I thought it was going to be like full on, like, because you said like,
when I read that trivia, this was during the lobby,
because they do like, but
this
it's
wouldn't
like
pass SPCA.
Right. But it's like it's more like documentary stuff. Like if you've watched a documentary and you've seen like a lion with its face in a fucking gazelle, and you're like, oh, that's just nature. But you're watching this and you're like, this is really fucked up. Then you're fucking racist and fuck off. But like, yeah, I definitely think it's worth a watch. And I definitely think it's super interesting. And I think if nothing else, definitely read about it. Definitely look it up. Very glad we watched it. I was very
same.
Yeah, it was really not at all what I was expecting.
No, I mean, I will say it felt
like an experience.
It felt absolutely. It felt like a steep curve.
Yeah.
Entering into it sort of blindly as
Correct.
We did. I mean,
absolutely.
not completely, obviously. But
but mostly.
It definitely took some time to get used to it. But once you did, or once I did,
right? Yeah, no, but because you were like, we stopped in the middle of it because, we had to like pee or whatever. Like, we like took a break in the middle.
I don't think we were more than like half an hour in, were we?
No. We were at least halfway through the movie.
No. Really?
Yes, I'm very sure because we started between 6:30 and 7, and it was after 8 when we.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I think we were about halfway through the film at that point, and I was like, oh yeah, and the idea of finishing was like didn't even like you were like, I don't know if I can finish it tonight. I'm like, that's fine. But in my head, I was like, I don't think I would have any issue with it. And obviously, we finished it. And it didn't feel like work.
No.
At all. The hardest part about finishing it was that the DVD player wouldn't let us pause the movie. So we had to pause. We had to just stop the whole movie and then find where we left off. Right. But yeah, like that's. Yeah, it was so easy to watch, despite being anything that if anything is presented as 3 hours, I'm like, absolutely fucking not. Like I don't care. Like I have to pace myself. If you were like, oh, there's a fucking new Star Trek movie and it's 3 hours long, I'd be like, I'm gonna need some time with that.
Right.
I'm so excited to watch it, and I'm gonna need some time with that. Like if you tell me anything is 3 hours long, I'm not gonna just be like, fuck yeah. I'm gonna be like, 3 hours. So I was worried, but I mean, I did it. It didn't feel like work.
It did not.
It was, and that's something I feel that's super impressive about this, though.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
what I'm really impressed with, because it was like, just,
Well, because as you said, like it's engaging.
Yeah.
So you want to.
Yeah. And I did not know like it's a folk tale, and it's told as if it is a folk tale. It is not commercialized. It's not put into a storyline that is made for a commercialized audience. It's not. So I didn't know what was going to happen next. It didn't feel like that thing where you're like, oh, I bet so and so. I bet in the exit. Yeah, no, I have no fucking idea. I don't know. So, you're watching and you're like, what the fuck's coming next? I don't fucking know, And of course it's like, it's like a hero story, So, it's like, that Atanarjuat is going to win in the end or whatever.
Right.
But like story-wise,
only because the story's named after him.
which interestingly, the cover that is Atanarjuat, the person on the cover is okay.
Yeah, I wondered.
Why is he on the cover? I think, I'm pretty sure it's him. So yeah. Yeah, it's just definitely consider watching this for sure. If you are interested in, indigenous stories told by indigenous people in indigenous ways, because they were so adamant about making this as accurate as possible that they could. And they did whatever they could to make sure that that happened. And that's so fucking impressive considering they had like not even 2 million as a budget. Right. They were working in just absolutely like crazy conditions. And yeah, it's just really impressive. So,
yeah. I appreciated... or thing I appreciated about it is how much you see the daily life things of like all the different ways of preparing the animals, for instance.
Correct.
I mean, not only that, but that's like, of course, that's a big part of daily life. So that takes up a good portion of it. Like, that's just sort of the setting of a scene, you know what I mean? Is like the women sitting down and prepping the furs or whatever they're doing. That's the thing. It's not actively explained either.
Correct.
It's just like they're scraping meat off the hide. So
I
don't know if is that whatever.
And
but I like that. That's more. Okay, we need a scene where this dialogue happens versus we need a scene where the traditional method of
right
prepping food happens,
or
the significance of lamp oil. Like all that is sort of it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think it's a thing that like wouldn't have. I probably wouldn't have happened if it was written by someone outside the culture or directed by someone outside the culture, because like
correct. Yes, absolutely.
You would think the audience would need
exposition to explain.
Or like, we need a setting where I don't know. I mean, maybe this is a bad analogy and I don't know what I'm saying. So never mind.
I feel like this is what I feel like you're saying. If it was made by someone who had no idea about the culture, they themselves would need an explanation, so they would assume everyone else did, so they would need to set up a way for them to explain why they were doing something that you can do by just showing what they're doing.
Right.
And it both takes a lot of work away from like feeling like you don't feel forced, you don't feel like you're pushed into a scene, like you're like, why? I don't need to know why you're doing this, and the scene does it does the work for itself. You're not having to do the work. I mean, like, as a storyteller, you're not having to do the work to make sure that people understand the significance. You're showing the significance as the storyline progresses. Yes. So there isn't a need for that sort of like exposition of like, I am now doing the traditional way, like,
exactly.
Like, there's no like stupid, silly, like back and forth of like, you're doing it wrong. My mother showed me how to properly clean hides this way. You're doing it the lazy way. This is how, and it's just like, oh my God, like nothing like that. It's just like them doing the thing. And if you're like, what's that? I don't know, fucking Google it, bro. Like, and
I feel like if you were, I don't know, again, this is probably a bad analogy because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but like, if you were to compare this to any of the versions of Mulan.
Right, yeah, yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I've heard from, or I saw a review by a Chinese American person that the animated Mulan is actually more accurate and more
Right.
just otherwise better
Yeah.
than the live action one they did last year or whatever. But it's still for a Western audience.
Right,
You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I think that's why it feels, because they're specifically telling indigenous stories for indigenous people to be historically accurate and not being like, how do we make this palatable? That's
Right.
not a question that's being asked, and so it makes it better.
Right, and again, it's like the
makes it
Brothers
better
Grimm
emotionally.
versus Walt Disney's Snow White.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Right, right, right. Yeah, they're telling like a story that's part of their history, and they're making sure that it's historical in how they're telling
Right.
it. They're not like making sure it's like, yeah, I guess
This is a
that's
fun
what,
story for kids. It teaches a good moral about.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, and I don't
This is
know.
what, hey, kids, this is what you need to do if your rival in the village gets possessed by an evil demon.
Oh man, the
It's
scene though
relatable.
where they're like fisting each other's fucking heads, that was crazy.
Dear Lord.
That's crazy. I liked the scene where
I like that one of those shots you could tell Atanarjuat, the actor playing him, to me it looked like, because so many of these scenes are have to be shot so
Yeah.
tightly because
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
inside tents or igloos. He goes to do his actual blow against Oki,
Yeah.
and to me it looks like he looks backwards at the last second to make sure he's not going to hit the camera person.
Yeah.
Or when the smoke is coming directly at the fire.
Oh my god, I know. There's smoke like they throw something on the fire and smoke just like barrels towards the camera, and like you see all these people around, and I am not sure. I can't 100% say, but no one that you see is coughing, but you hear and I'm like, is the camera guy coughing?
And then there's an early scene where they're going off
Yeah.
on the sledge or whatever.
Well, I can't tell
and you
that-
see the long shadow.
Yeah, I can't tell if that's someone from the camera, if that's just supposed to be the person like standing, like looking, because like the next scene is her standing there looking out at them. So I don't know if it's supposed to be that, but like truly, I'm like, is that a camera person or is that just supposed to
The
be?
boom operator.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just like, but I love shit like that because I'm like, yeah, this definitely, like when I was watching it, like before we really like, watched it, I was like, this is like a really, really simplistic sort of thing. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sit through this. I don't know if I'm going to, and then by the end of it, I'm like, damn, no wonder that shit won awards. Like, like when you're going to go into it and you're going to be like, oh God, this is painful. Because that's how I thought it was going to be. And by the end of it, I was like, damn.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
It helps
did
that the
something.
focus narrows. I mean, like, or I don't know about narrows, but like the first couple of opening scenes, the ones we rewatched this morning,
Correct.
I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, you're throwing names around as though I should know who's whom. And
Yeah.
a guy just got tied up and
Yeah. and
another
then-
guy is throat singing and then the other guy falls over dead
Yeah.
or whatever. Is he dead? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody
yeah.
else gets the necklace now.
Yep. Mhm. Yeah.
Careful what you wish for. Mm-hmm. Although I did love, even at the first viewing where he's taking it around, it looks like he's going to put it on.
Yeah. Tulamek.
Yeah. But then he doesn't. And then it looks like it's going to go over. I thought it was supposed to be a POV onto
Yeah.
the camera, whoever the camera's view is.
Oh, yeah.
Because it goes out of frame.
Yeah.
Like, because it's. Anyway.
Yeah. Would you recommend?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's an experience. You can't
For
watch
sure.
it. You can't go into it thinking you're just watching any old other movie. You got to be prepared for
Yeah.
3 hours of not English
Mm-hmm.
and reading subtitles and just being
seeing people eat seals,
thrown
and caribou.
into the deep end of non-Western European culture.
Yeah, yeah. And you can't especially if you're white, you can't be judgy about any of this. You can't sit there and be like, if you find yourself being like, I don't understand this. This isn't made for you. This is not made for you. You're being gifted the opportunity of seeing another culture's history.
Yeah, I remember not that long ago, because Toni Morrison died a couple of years ago, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it was her description, but talking about, like, the way she writes is from inside.
Yeah.
And I remember, I've only read one of her books, and it's like her first one, I think, Sula, and it's relatively short. But I'm like, yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like, you know, and this is because I'm extra woke and a good white, that I'm like, oh, this is a privilege that
correct.
I'm being shown this.
Right, correct.
So that's how you should approach this.
Yes,
film.
absolutely.
Is what I hear you saying.
Yes. No, for sure.
Which
and
I don't think I'd be surprised if anyone would seek out this film or even listen to our podcast if you were the kind of person that was like, you know, what the fuck?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I'll give this content warning because it clearly bothered you. There's lots of babies with snotty faces.
Yeah, it's true. I did not enjoy that. Those babies.
If that bothers you, then
wipe their little noses. It was even like Atwat was like crying, and she went and wiped her nose, and I was like, "Girl, do that to the baby. Take your sleeve." And oh my god, it was just so much snot on that kid's face. I don't like. I can't have kids, so it's not a problem. But one of the hardest things for me with babies is just the general like liquids that come out of their face. They drool on everything. If they want to have a sippy of your drinky, they just spit in it. It's disgusting. They'd be like, you'd have a straw and they'd be like, ugh, and then it'd just be covered in just goo and their snot is on everything. And I'm like, oh my God, how? And it just made, and so seeing that, I'm like, bleh. That was the hardest part for me. Because I know that baby is probably like 20 right now, 22, 23 years old. I know. So I'm like.
So embarrassing for that kid.
I know. Looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry you went through. No, yeah, anyway. But yeah, definitely this was an experience for sure. This is probably like one of the most serious episodes that we've done. The other one being probably Great Balls of Fire, where I talked about sexual assault in the music or in the movies and music and whatever industry for 2 hours. You're welcome.
Man, I watched. I don't want to take too much time on this, but earlier this week I watched 2 video essays. One by Princess Meeks on. That one was on Don't Worry, Darling. And then I watched one by BKR, Be Kind, Rewind, on Blonde. And I realized, feminism is still pretty radical.
Yeah, I know.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think some people, I would count myself in this at times, felt like it wasn't radical enough, or that we were, I wouldn't say post, like I never thought patriarchy went away. But,
right,
or misogyny.
Yeah.
I mean, white feminism is broke.
Oh my God, white feminism is...
Get it out of here.
Ooh, yikes.
Retire it.
Yeah.
But, any kind of intersectional feminism, probably we should keep...
Yeah.
One of the things, and again, I don't want to go... I appreciated this because on the Blonde... No, it's probably the other one. Yeah, I was on the other one. Don't Worry, Darling. Because she compares it to both versions of Stepford Wives. Mm-hmm. And how the 2004 one has Glenn Close and talks about Glenn Close in with Michael Douglas. God damn it.
It is that movie with the rabbit.
Yeah. You all know which one we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll do it in post. It'll be like Basic Instinct or whatever.
Yeah. Dangerously. No, Basic Instinct is the one with Sharon Stone.
You're right. This one is
Fatal Attraction.
Fatal Attraction.
Sorry, Randall.
Oh, yeah, I know. He's like, God damn it. God damn you all to hell. The famous quote from Archer.
Yeah, from Archer. Get your paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
Yep. Made famous by Archer.
Yeah, and how that movie specifically was, like a backlash to this idea of like, oh, women have everything now. They can be career people. They can have children on their own, but they're still missing love. The love of a man because they're too independent.
Yeah.
Anyway, and now that it's sort of mainstream, it's been mainstreamed over the last 8 years, how the right just says feminism is at fault for...
Yeah.
Anyway. Bit of a tangent from...
No, but I will say it goes along... If your feminism is not intersectional, then it's just white supremacy.
Correct.
And I think that goes for...
Yeah, let's not call it feminism.
Well, right, but I think that goes, the same thing can be said about, like, if you're like, oh, I'm anti-race, like, you can't be, okay, I'm going to say this. There's no such thing as not racist because racism is everywhere. So if you're not being actively anti-racist, if you're not actively making yourself uncomfortable, then you are not doing enough. And that's period. End of story. No arguments. If you're not actively uncomfortable, which is essentially the bare minimum, you are not doing enough, and you're not just benefiting from white supremacy, but you are exacerbating it.
Yeah, man, this is the thing that
and you have to be
has been purposely obscured by it's an argument somehow that there's structural racism.
Right. If you say...
And why... I understand why, and this is what made me start using it, why you favor the term white supremacy versus structural racism.
Correct.
I mean, they're two sides of a coin, I guess.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
The system, the structures are meant to uphold white supremacy.
Correct.
So it means that all you have to do is get by to be an agent of that system.
Yes. If you are not uncomfortable, and that, like, literally, like, if you're simply just not uncomfortable and you're sitting there saying, I'm not racist, I hate to tell you, but you're benefiting. You're actively benefiting from a white supremacist society.
Our poor asses over here are benefiting from white supremacy.
Correct. Yeah. And
despite all our lack of comfort.
Yeah. Like, yeah, and the thing is, I'm not white and I benefit from white supremacy because I'm white assumed. So I benefit from it. And if you can't, like, look at that, if you are unwilling to make yourself uncomfortable, just uncomfortable at the thought of like doing the work even internally, then you are actively you are an active agent of white supremacy, period. And there's just no arguments. Like, that's just how it works. You can't just say, there's no such thing as not racist. You have to be actively anti-racist. Because racism is happening all around you at all times, period. There is no argument. There is no discussion to be had. It is just happening. And if you're like, hey, we're talking about this indigenous film. Yeah, this indigenous film that was made 20 years ago that is still, like, essentially one of the only films that exists like this. And it was the first of its kind 20 years ago. That's 2000. Like, it was made in like between like, it took so many
shooting
years.
in 1999 or something.
Yes, it took years for this film to actually be made. And like,
and you still probably never heard of it.
Yeah, and you've never heard of it, even though it won awards, even though like fucking Siskel and Ebert talked about it, like all this shit. You've probably never seen it, thought of it, or heard of it.
Yeah, I've never heard of it before.
I'm not saying like, that makes you a white supremacist. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that there's a reason why that it still would be difficult to find financial backing for a film like this.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about. That's how you connect it back. Like, if you want to watch this movie and you're like, oh, this is boring. Oh, this isn't any good. Just fuck off, man. And if that's how you feel, if you start watching this, if you're like, oh, this is gross, like, oh, I don't care about these people, like all this stuff, if you're inclined to like mock their appearance, to mock how they live their lives, to, nitpick on things like that, then you're honestly not, you're part of the problem. And even if it's just your internal dialogue doing that, you're still part of the problem. And you still need to work.
Well, let's get some room for if that stuff comes up and you recognize it.
Right. There's a difference. There's a difference between like, you have to sit, if you're feeling like that, if you're just sitting there watching this and you're like, who cares about this, whatever.
And that's sort of the discomfort we're talking about.
Yeah, like, correct. If you're like, oh, I don't like this, and then you're like, why don't I like this? Why am I looking at their appearance? Why am I judging that? Why am I deciding who I would fuck and who I wouldn't? Like, why is this why does that matter to me in this?
Oh, yeah.
Like, or you know what I mean? Like, if you're looking at things and you're like, oh, if you're inclined to like mock their way of life or something like that, and then you have to stop and be like, why do I feel that way? Why am I doing that? And if you can't even do that, if you can't even stop and say, why am I behaving this way? Why am I looking at this? Why am I not grateful for the opportunity to see this way of life? And the only thing you can do is nitpick or think about stereotypes or make fun of or mock their names or whatever. Then why, like, there's a lot that needs to be examined. And that's sort of what we're saying. If you're watching this, and you're able to sit through it, don't pat yourself on the back for that,
Like we did.
No, we said it was interesting.
Sorry, like I did.
Yeah, we said it was actually interesting. That's what
I will be telling all my white friends that I watched this movie.
All my white friends.
All my white friends.
All my white friends said. Anyway, yeah, this is 4.5 hours long now, so you're welcome. Thanks for listening. You're racist. Just kidding.
Your breath. Your metal. I am you now. Your marrow, 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 marrow.
It was ruined.
I was lying this time.